Well, what is it like to spend years trying to bring down the world's most wanted drug lord? In a moment, we will talk exclusively with the former DEA agent who helped capture El Chapo. But first, the notorious cartel leader is behind bars here in New York, awaiting trial on a long list of charges. And as NBC's Miguel Almaguer explains, security around him is extremely tight and for good reason.
Dangerous, powerful, and elusive. El Chapo, whose real name is Joaquin Guzman, evaded Mexican and American authorities for decades.
For the second time, he just staged a spectacular escape from prison.
Before his brazen escape in 2015 through an elaborate tunnel that ran right under his high-security prison in Mexico, El Chapo had been on the run for 13 years. Implicated in thousands of murders, the drug lord was the head of the notorious Sinaloa cartel, which authorities say supplied most of the methamphetamine, cocaine, and marijuana entering the U.S., fueling the country's current heroin epidemic. In late 2010, as part of a narcotics task force, DEA agent Drew Hogan infiltrated the cartel. He spoke to Lester Holt about his experience, including tracking the phones of El Chapo's closest associates.
Were you actually reading their texts?
Every single one of them.
After several narrow escapes, the information finally led Hogan and a team of Mexican and American law enforcement to the resort town of Mazatlan, where they caught the infamous drug trafficker in 2014.
Yeah, baby!
The celebration after his 4-year hunt didn't last long. It was only 16 months later that El Chapo again led agents on a desperate search.
Always one step ahead. He was always one step ahead.
For today, Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
And Drew Hogan is with us now. He's revealing his identity for the first time and sharing his story in a new book called Hunting El Chapo. Drew, good morning. It's good to see you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Your interview with Lester is going to air on Sunday, but this is the first time you are publicly saying it was me.
Yes.
And you put your name with it. Is there any danger associated with that? Are you nervous at all about coming forward and saying, yep, I was the guy?
You know, the dangers are certainly real, but immediately after the capture, I knew that I was going to tell this story one way or the other, and I chose to do that through the book. And it was time to embrace. It was time to step up and be proud of what I had done, what my teammates had accomplished, because the story goes beyond just the one man. It's about two countries coming together and accomplishing something that most thought was impossible.
You were working for the DEA. You moved your young family to Mexico City. It was a dangerous gig. And you decide to turn your attention to El Chapo. He'd been missing for 13 years on the run, right?
Right.
How did you get into his communication network? How did you catch up with him finally?
By looking at the details. It was in the details, in the numbers. The phone numbers don't lie. And I was able to pair up with a crack team of Homeland Security investigative agents, and we began intercepting members of Chapo's inner circle and really starting to dismantle layers within his sophisticated communication structure until we got to the top where I had his personal secretary's device who was standing right next to him, and I could ping that and establish a pattern of life to determine where he was at.
And you finally did. You caught up with him in Mazatlan. Could have been a bloody gunfight. It wasn't. He kind of put his hands up, right? When did you finally come face to face with this person that you had been hunting, and what was that moment like?
We were at the Hotel Miramar. He was on the 4th floor, and Semar, the Mexican Marines, went inside and started banging down doors. I was standing outside. I was worried about our perimeter. I was worried about him escaping us again. And I heard excited radio chatter that they got him, they got the target. And my vehicle was first in, drove it down into the underground parking garage, and that's where they had him. They were just standing him up. I got out of my vehicle, ran right up to him. I'm wearing his black ball cap that I had taken out of his closet.
His hat.
His hat.
You're wearing his hat, okay.
In Culiacan, my only souvenir of the hunt. wearing a black ski mask, and I ran right up to him, jumped into his face, and said the first thing that came to my head, and it was, I screamed, "What's up, Chapo?"
You really did.
I did.
And what did he say? How did he react?
You know, his eyes kind of bulged out. It was very dark, and our eyes locked there for a second, and they threw him into the back of my car, and then the Marines then took him out of the hotel.
What a story, and the book is full of these anecdotes. It's incredible, especially to learn about how El Chapo lived, despite the fact that he was a billionaire. He kind of lived in a bunch of scummy houses, right? Yes,
I was surprised with the way that he lived. He almost afforded himself no luxury. Same plastic tables and chairs in every safe house that was designed the same way.
And after all that, he's finally captured. He's in a Mexican prison, and I think less than 2 years later, he escapes again. Just very quickly, I mean, what did you think when you heard that? He's out. He's on the loose again.
It was pretty predictable. This tunnel that went underneath the prison was the same types of tunnels that went underneath the safe houses, were the same types of tunnels that are at the U.S.-Mexico border.
They should have known.
It was coming if they didn't have them on complete lockdown.
Well, Drew Hogan, thank you for sharing your story with us. This is really just the tip of the iceberg. The book is called Hunting El Chapo. It's out now. You can find out more about the book at today.com/shop. And you can hear more of Drew's story. He sits down, talks to Lester Hull this Sunday on Dateline, Inside the Hunt for El Chapo. It's 7 o'clock, 6 Central here on NBC. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Savannah.